Captain Maya Chen had perfected the art of being invisible in a cockpit that cost more than most people's houses. At 28, she maneuvered her F-35 Lightning II through the Nevada skies with a precision that her squadron mates called delicate and overly cautious. What they didn't know was that her gentle touch on the controls masked reflexes honed by 12 years of competitive gaming, a photographic memory for target patterns, and an intuitive understanding of aerial combat that bordered on supernatural. The morning she locked onto 12 enemy fighters in 8 seconds would shatter every assumption they'd made about the quiet pilot who never raised her voice, never boasted about her scores, and never challenged their boys' club mentality. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Nevada sun blazed mercilessly across Nellis Air Force Base as the 34th Fighter Squadron gathered for their morning briefing. The hangar buzzed with the familiar testosterone-fueled energy of elite pilots comparing weekend exploits and trading. Insults disguised as camaraderie. Captain Jake "Viper" Morrison dominated the conversation, his voice carrying across the metal building as he described his latest conquest in the simulated air-to-air combat exercises. Major Rick "Razor" Thompson leaned against his F-35, gesturing wildly as he recounted a close call during a training mission over the Pacific. Lieutenant Derek "Ace" Rodriguez cleaned his helmet visor with the meticulous care of someone who believed equipment maintenance was directly proportional to pilot skill. Maya Chen sat quietly in the corner, her flight suit impeccably pressed, her gear arranged with mathematical precision on the bench beside her. She listened to her squadron mates with the patient attention of someone who had learned long ago that speaking up only invited ridicule. Her notebook lay open beside her, filled with detailed diagrams of flight patterns, weather analysis, and tactical observations that would have impressed seasoned combat veterans. To her colleagues, however, she was simply Princess or Gentle Touch, the pilot who flew like she was afraid to break her expensive toy. Colonel David "Hawk" Sterling strode into the briefing room with the commanding presence of a man who had seen actual combat in 3 different theaters. His weathered face carried the weight of decisions that had kept American pilots alive through impossible odds. Behind him followed the usual entourage of operations officers, intelligence specialists, and maintenance chiefs who kept the squadron's 12 F-35s mission-ready around the clock. The room gradually quieted as Sterling took his position behind the tactical display, but the undercurrent of masculine bravado continued to simmer beneath the surface. This morning's exercise would simulate a deep strike mission against a heavily defended target complex somewhere in the theoretical Middle East. Intelligence reports suggested multiple layers of air defense systems, including advanced surface-to-air missile sites, radar installations, and a squadron of enemy fighters equipped with the latest Russian technology. The mission parameters called for precision strikes against 6 primary targets while maintaining air superiority against hostile aircraft that would be vectored in from multiple directions throughout the engagement. Sterling began outlining the tactical situation, his laser pointer dancing across satellite imagery that showed the target area in stark detail. The primary objective was a suspected weapons manufacturing facility buried deep underground, surrounded by defensive positions that would challenge even the most experienced pilots. Secondary targets included radar installations, communication towers, and supply depots that supported the main facility. The intelligence assessment painted a picture of sophisticated defenses operated by professional military personnel who understood modern aerial warfare. Maya absorbed every detail with the focused intensity that her colleagues mistook for anxiety. She sketched notes in the margins of her briefing materials, cross-referencing target locations with known defensive capabilities and probable engagement scenarios. Her mind automatically calculated approach vectors, weapons employment sequences, and contingency plans for various tactical situations. While her squadron mates joked quietly about the mission's complexity, Maya was already mentally rehearsing solutions to problems that hadn't yet materialized. The flight assignments were announced with the casual efficiency of routine training operations. Morrison would lead the primary strike package, his aggressive flying style perfectly suited for the kind of frontal assault that training scenarios typically favored. Thompson would command the secondary strike element, responsible for neutralizing air defense systems that might threaten the main attack. Rodriguez would provide close air support for any ground elements that might be encountered during the mission. The assignments reflected Sterling's assessment of each pilot's strengths and his confidence in their ability to execute complex tactical operations. Maya's assignment came last, delivered with the kind of casual dismissal that had become routine over her 18 months with the squadron. She would provide combat air patrol for the strike packages, maintaining defensive overwatch while the real pilots conducted their important business of destroying enemy targets. Her role was essentially to fly circles at high altitude, watching for threats that probably wouldn't materialize, and providing radio relay for pilots who were actually engaged in meaningful combat operations. The dismissal stung with familiar intensity, but Maya had grown accustomed to being relegated to support roles that kept her away from the primary action. Her squadron mates viewed her as technically competent, but lacking the aggressive instincts necessary for air-to-air combat. They'd never seen her push her aircraft to its performance limits or demonstrate the kind of tactical creativity that separated exceptional pilots from merely adequate ones. To them, she was the cautious pilot who followed procedures exactly, never took unnecessary risks, and flew like she was perpetually worried about damaging expensive government property. What they didn't know was that Maya's gentle touch stemmed from a fundamental understanding of her aircraft that bordered on intimate knowledge. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. She had spent countless hours studying every system, every capability, every subtle nuance of F-35 performance characteristics. Her cautious flying wasn't fear, it was precision born from recognizing that the Lightning II was capable of things that most pilots never even attempted. Her reluctance to engage in the kind of aerial machismo that dominated squadron culture wasn't timidity, it was the patience of someone who understood that real combat demanded different skills than training exercises. During equipment checks and pre-flight preparations, Maya moved through her routine with the methodical precision that had earned her perfect scores in every evaluation she'd ever received. Her F-35, tail number 418, was maintained to standards that exceeded even Nellis Air Force Base's notoriously strict requirements. Every system had been tested, every component verified, every possible malfunction anticipated and prepared for. While her colleagues rushed through abbreviated pre-flight checks, confident in their aircraft's reliability, Maya took the time to understand exactly what condition her fighter was in before trusting her life to its capabilities. The hangar chief, Master Sergeant Tony Vasquez, watched Maya's preparation routine with the grudging respect of someone who had seen too many pilots treat their aircraft like rental cars. Vasquez had 23 years of experience maintaining fighter aircraft, and he could recognize the difference between pilots who understood their machines and those who simply operated them. Maya fell into the former category, asking detailed questions about recent maintenance actions, system modifications, and performance characteristics that most pilots never bothered to consider. Her personal equipment reflected the same attention to detail that characterized her flying. Her helmet was fitted with precision optics that provided enhanced targeting capabilities during complex engagement scenarios. Her flight suit contained emergency equipment that exceeded standard requirements, including backup communication systems and survival gear optimized for the specific terrain they'd be operating over. Her sidearm was a custom-modified Beretta M9 that she'd qualified expert with during her last 3 range sessions, though her colleagues regularly joked that she'd probably apologize before shooting anyone. The morning briefing concluded with weather reports, communication frequencies, and emergency procedures that had become routine after dozens of similar training missions. Maya copied every detail into her notebook with the careful handwriting of someone who understood that small oversights could become fatal errors under stress. Her colleagues gathered their gear with the casual confidence of pilots who had executed similar missions countless times before, but Maya approached each flight as if it might be the one where everything went wrong. As the squadron walked toward their aircraft, the Nevada sun had climbed high enough to make the concrete shimmer with heat waves that would affect targeting systems throughout the day. The 12 F-35s sat in perfect formation on the flight line, their angular stealth profiles giving them an otherworldly appearance that never failed to impress visitors to Nellis. Each aircraft represented the pinnacle of American aerospace technology, capable of speeds exceeding Mach 1.6 and carrying weapons loads that could devastate entire enemy formations. In the hands of skilled pilots, they were the most lethal fighter aircraft ever built. Maya approached her F-35 with the reverence of someone who never forgot that she was about to strap herself into a machine capable of things that defied common sense. The aircraft systems began initializing as soon as she settled into the ejection seat, dozens of screens and displays coming online with data that would guide her through the next several hours of flight operations. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced familiarity, each switch and button positioned exactly where thousands of hours of training had taught her to expect them. The squadron's radio chatter filled with the usual pre-flight banter as engines spooled up and systems completed their startup sequences. Morrison's voice dominated the frequency with confident assessments of the mission's tactical challenges and predictions about which pilot would achieve the highest scores during the engagement. Thompson added his own commentary about the enemy's probable defensive strategies and how easily they would be defeated by superior American technology and training. Rodriguez contributed jokes about the mission's complexity and suggestions that the enemy should surrender immediately to avoid embarrassment. Maya listened to the conversation while running through her own pre-flight checklist with methodical precision. Every system received her personal attention. Every indicator was verified against expected parameters. Every contingency was mentally rehearsed before she declared her aircraft ready for combat operations. Her approach to flying reflected a philosophy that had kept her alive through hundreds of training missions. Every detail mattered because any one of them could be the difference between success and catastrophe. The tower cleared the squadron for takeoff in elements of 2, with Morrison and Thompson leading the formation, followed by Rodriguez and his wingmen, then the remaining pilots in order of seniority. Maya's position near the end of the formation reflected her status as one of the squadron's newer members, though her flight experience actually exceeded that of several pilots who had been assigned to the unit longer. The F-35's powerful engine lifted her smoothly into the Nevada sky, the aircraft responding to her inputs with the precise control that had made the Lightning II famous among pilots who understood its capabilities. As the formation climbed toward their assigned altitude, Maya settled into the comfortable routine of high-altitude flight. The Nevada landscape spread beneath them like a tactical map, with mountain ranges, valleys, and desert floor providing natural reference points for navigation. Her aircraft systems painted a detailed picture of the airspace around them, tracking friendly aircraft, monitoring for potential threats, and maintaining constant communication with ground control facilities that coordinated the complex training exercise. The flight toward the target area took 45 minutes, during which Maya maintained her assigned position in the formation, while studying the tactical situation through her aircraft's advanced sensor systems. The exercise controllers had positioned simulated enemy forces throughout the operational area, creating a realistic threat environment that would challenge every aspect of the squadron's training. Surface-to-air missile sites dotted the landscape, their radar signatures carefully modeled to replicate actual enemy systems. Simulated enemy aircraft patrolled designated areas, their flight patterns suggesting professional military tactics, rather than the predictable behavior of typical training targets. Maya's role in the mission was to establish a combat air patrol orbit approximately 50 miles from the primary target area, where she would provide early warning of enemy aircraft movements and serve as a backup strike asset if the primary packages encountered unexpected difficulties. It was a support role that kept her away from the main action, but it also provided an excellent vantage point for observing how the mission developed. Her position would allow her to see the entire tactical picture while remaining available to respond to contingencies that might arise during the engagement. As the formation approached the initial point for the attack, radio communications became more focused and professional. The casual banter of peacetime flying gave way to the clipped, efficient transmissions of pilots preparing for combat operations. Morrison began coordinating with his wingmen about target assignments and weapons employment sequences. Thompson confirmed his element's readiness to neutralize the air defense systems that protected the primary target. Rodriguez acknowledged his instructions to provide close air support for any ground operations that might develop during the mission. Maya broke away from the main formation and climbed toward her assigned patrol altitude, her F-35 systems automatically configuring for air-to-air operations. The aircraft's radar began scanning the airspace ahead, searching for enemy contacts that might threaten the strike packages. Her weapons systems came online with the subtle hum of electronic components preparing for potential combat, though her orders specified that she should only engage enemy aircraft if they directly threatened friendly forces or if specifically directed by the mission commander. The naval landscape far below showed no signs of the complex training exercise taking place in the airspace above. From her altitude, Maya could see the entire operational area spread out like a three-dimensional chessboard, with friendly and enemy forces maneuvering according to tactical doctrines that had been refined through decades of aerial warfare. Her position provided a unique perspective on how modern air combat actually functioned, far removed from the simplified scenarios that dominated most pilot training. Sterling's voice crackled through her headphones as he updated the squadron on the developing tactical situation. Intelligence reports suggested that enemy forces were more numerous and better organized than initial assessments had indicated. The air defense systems protecting the target area appeared to be professionally operated, with radar operators who understood how to use terrain masking and electronic countermeasures to complicate American targeting efforts. Most significantly, enemy fighter aircraft were being vectored toward the strike packages with coordination that suggested experienced command and control personnel. Maya acknowledged the intelligence update while studying her tactical display, which showed the positions of friendly and enemy forces throughout the operational area. Morrison's strike package was approaching the target from the southeast, using a low-altitude approach that would minimize their exposure to enemy radar systems. Thompson's element was beginning its attack on the air defense sites, their missiles already in flight toward targets that would hopefully be neutralized before the main strike force arrived. Rodriguez was holding his position, ready to provide support if ground forces were encountered during the mission. The first indication that something was wrong came from Thompson's terse radio transmission reporting that enemy surface-to-air missiles were being launched in greater numbers than expected. His element was taking evasive action, but the sophisticated air defense systems were proving more capable than intelligence estimates had suggested. Morrison's response indicated growing concern about the mission's complexity, though his voice maintained the confident tone of a pilot who believed that superior training and technology would overcome any tactical challenges. Maya watched the developing situation through her aircraft sensor systems, her mind automatically analyzing the tactical picture and identifying potential solutions to problems that were becoming increasingly apparent. The enemy's defensive strategy was more sophisticated than anyone had anticipated, with multiple layers of protection that were designed to overwhelm American technological advantages through sheer volume and coordination. The strike packages were encountering exactly the kind of professional opposition that separated training exercises from actual combat operations. Rodriguez's voice joined the radio traffic as he reported visual contact with enemy fighter aircraft approaching from the northwest. His transmission carried the tension of a pilot who had just realized that the training exercise was about to become significantly more challenging than anyone had expected. The enemy fighters were flying in disciplined formations, their approach vectors suggesting tactical knowledge that exceeded what most training scenarios typically provided. This wasn't going to be the straightforward mission that morning briefings had suggested. Maya's radar painted the first enemy contacts at extreme range, their signatures indicating advanced fighter aircraft equipped with modern avionics and weapon systems. The contacts were approaching in multiple groups from different directions, a coordinated effort designed to overwhelm the American force's ability to respond effectively. Her tactical training immediately recognized the pattern as a classic double envelopment, a maneuver that would put enormous pressure on the strike packages while they were most vulnerable during their attack runs. The mission commander's voice cut through the increasingly frantic radio traffic with orders for Maya to maintain her position and continue providing overwatch for the strike packages. Her role remained unchanged despite the deteriorating tactical situation, though she could see clearly that the enemy's coordinated response was creating problems that hadn't been anticipated during mission planning. The strike packages were about to be caught between sophisticated air defenses below and coordinated fighter attacks from multiple directions above. Maya's hands moved across her aircraft's controls with the fluid precision of someone who had practiced these movements thousands of times. Her F-35 systems responded instantly to her inputs, the aircraft's advanced avionics painting a detailed picture of the tactical situation that was developing around the strike packages. Enemy contacts were multiplying on her display faster than the mission planners had anticipated, their coordinated movements suggesting a level of professional competence that would challenge even experienced American pilots. Thompson's element reported successful strikes against several air defense sites, but enemy surface-to-air missiles continued to fill the airspace around Morrison's approaching strike package. The volume of defensive fire was overwhelming the electronic countermeasures that were supposed to protect the attacking aircraft, forcing the pilots to take evasive action that complicated their ability to deliver precision strikes against their assigned targets. The mission was rapidly becoming more complex than anyone had expected, with casualties becoming a real possibility despite the simulated nature of the exercise. Morrison's first attack run against the primary target encountered defensive fire that forced him to abort his approach and circle for another attempt. His frustrated radio transmission indicated growing awareness that the mission was not developing according to plan, though his determination to complete the attack remained evident in his clipped professional tone. His wingman reported minor damage from fragments of a surface-to-air missile that had detonated close enough to his aircraft to cause concern about system reliability. Maya watched the tactical situation deteriorate through her aircraft's sensor systems, her mind racing through potential solutions to problems that were becoming increasingly critical. The enemy's coordinated response was creating exactly the kind of multiple threat environment that challenged every aspect of pilot training and aircraft capability. The strike packages were being forced to deal with threats from multiple directions simultaneously, dividing their attention between completing their primary mission and surviving long enough to return to base. The enemy fighter aircraft were now close enough for Maya to identify their specific types through her targeting systems. Advanced variants of Russian-designed fighters, equipped with modern radar systems and long-range missiles that could threaten American aircraft at distances that previous generations of enemy fighters could never have achieved. Their approach patterns indicated professional training and tactical sophistication that would test the limits of American technological advantages. Rodriguez engaged the lead enemy formation with long-range missiles, his transmission reporting good hits on 2 targets while a third continued its approach toward Morrison's strike package. The successful intercepts provided temporary relief, but Maya's radar showed additional enemy contacts, approaching from directions that would soon overwhelm the squadron's ability to respond effectively. The situation was rapidly approaching the point where mission success would require capabilities that exceeded what conventional tactics could provide. Maya's tactical training identified the solution with crystal clarity, though implementing it would require violating her explicit orders to maintain defensive overwatch. The enemy's coordinated attack could be disrupted by engaging multiple targets simultaneously, using the F-35's advanced sensor fusion capabilities to track and eliminate threats faster than conventional engagement methods would allow. It would require pushing her aircraft and her own skills to their absolute limits, but the alternative was watching her squadron mates face overwhelming odds, while she followed orders that were rapidly becoming obsolete. Sterling's voice crackled through the radio frequency with updated instructions based on the developing tactical situation. Maya was authorized to engage enemy aircraft that directly threatened the strike packages, though she remained assigned to defensive rather than offensive operations. The authorization was carefully worded to maintain her support role, while acknowledging that the mission's complexity might require more flexible responses than original planning had anticipated. Maya acknowledged the new instructions while studying her tactical display, which now showed enemy contacts approaching from 4 different directions simultaneously. The coordinated attack was designed to overwhelm American decision-making capabilities by presenting more threats than pilots could effectively process using conventional engagement methods. It was exactly the kind of scenario that the F-35's advanced systems had been designed to handle, though few pilots had ever attempted to use those capabilities under realistic combat conditions. Her aircraft's sensor fusion system began integrating data from multiple sources, creating a 3-dimensional tactical picture that showed every enemy contact in real time. The F-35's advanced computer systems could track dozens of targets simultaneously while calculating optimal engagement sequences that would maximize effectiveness while minimizing exposure to enemy counterattacks. The technology existed to handle the tactical situation that was developing, but using it effectively required pilot skills that exceeded what normal training typically developed. Maya's hands moved across her aircraft's controls with increasing speed and precision as she prepared to demonstrate capabilities that her squadron mates had never seen. Her gentle touch was about to become something entirely different, revealing skills that had been hidden beneath months of careful restraint and deliberate underperformance. The enemy's coordinated attack had created exactly the kind of tactical emergency that would justify using every capability at her disposal, regardless of what her colleagues might think about her methods. The first enemy formation was approaching from the northeast, their missiles already active and searching for American targets. The second group was vectoring in from the northwest, timing their attack to arrive simultaneously with the first. A third formation was approaching from due north, positioning themselves to intercept any American aircraft that might attempt to escape the developing trap. The coordination was professional, sophisticated, and designed to overwhelm conventional defensive responses. Maya's F-35 systems locked onto the lead aircraft from each formation simultaneously, her targeting computer calculating engagement solutions that would allow her to engage multiple threats within seconds of each other. The aircraft's advanced RADAR could track all targets while maintaining the stealth, characteristics that would prevent enemy aircraft from detecting her presence until her missiles were already in flight. It was precisely the kind of tactical situation that the Lightning II had been designed to dominate, though few pilots had ever attempted to use its full capabilities. Her finger moved toward the weapon's release button as targeting solutions solidified on her display. 12 enemy contacts painted on her screen, their approach vectors converging on her squadron mates who were struggling to complete their primary mission while defending against coordinated attacks from multiple directions. The mathematical precision of the engagement sequence flashed through her mind with computer-like clarity. Each shot calculated to achieve maximum effectiveness while minimizing the time her aircraft would be exposed to enemy counterattack. Maya's squadron mates had mocked her gentle touch on the controls, her cautious approach to training exercises, her reluctance to engage in the kind of aggressive flying that dominated squadron culture. They were about to discover that gentleness and precision were not signs of weakness, but rather the foundation of capabilities that exceeded anything they had ever imagined. The quiet pilot who never raised her voice was about to speak in a language that enemy fighters would understand perfectly. The tactical situation demanded immediate action, and Maya Chen was finally ready to show her squadron exactly what her gentle touch could accomplish when the stakes were real and American lives hung in the balance. 8 seconds would be all. The time she needed to transform the entire engagement, though no one watching would believe what they were about to witness until her missiles found their targets and 12 enemy contacts simply disappeared from the tactical display. The moment of truth had arrived, and the squadron's princess was about to become something entirely different. Maya's finger pressed the weapon's release button with the same gentle precision that had characterized every control input she'd made over 18 months with the squadron. Her F-35's advanced targeting system responded instantly, launching 6 AIM-120D missiles in rapid succession, while simultaneously maintaining target locks on the remaining enemy contacts. The aircraft's sophisticated computer systems managed the complex engagement sequence with mathematical precision, tracking 12 separate targets while calculating optimal intercept vectors for each weapon in flight. The first missile found its target 3 seconds after launch, the lead enemy fighter from the northeastern formation, disappearing from Maya's tactical display in a brief flash of expanding debris. Her second missile eliminated the formation leader from the northwest group before the enemy pilots had even detected her presence. The third and fourth weapons struck their targets simultaneously, removing the command aircraft from both the northern and western approach vectors. The systematic elimination of enemy formation leaders created immediate chaos in the coordinated attack that had been developing against her squadron mates. Maya's targeting system had already shifted to the remaining 8 enemy contacts, her aircraft's radar maintaining perfect tracks on targets that were now scattering in confusion as their tactical coordination collapsed. The F-35's sensor fusion capabilities painted a 3-dimensional picture of the engagement that allowed her to anticipate enemy reactions before the pilots themselves had time to process what was happening to their formations. Her fifth and sixth missiles eliminated the wingmen from the northeastern group, while her remaining weapons found their marks against targets that were attempting desperate, evasive maneuvers. 8 seconds after the engagement began, Maya's tactical display showed empty airspace, where 12 enemy fighters had been approaching in coordinated formations just moments before. Her squadron mates' radio transmissions reflected stunned disbelief as they watched enemy contacts simply vanish from their screens, faster than most pilots could have targeted a single aircraft. The sophisticated coordinated attack that had threatened to overwhelm the entire strike mission had been neutralized by a single pilot, using capabilities that exceeded anything her colleagues had ever witnessed. Morrison's voice crackled through the radio frequency with professional confusion masked as tactical assessment. His transmission requested confirmation of the enemy aircraft disposition. though the uncertainty in his tone suggested that he couldn't quite believe what his instruments were telling him. Thompson's element reported that enemy surface-to-air missile activity had ceased abruptly, apparently because the coordination between air and ground forces had been disrupted by the sudden elimination of the fighter cover that was supposed to protect the defensive systems. Maya calmly reported the engagement results to Sterling while her F-35 systems automatically began searching for additional threats that might emerge from the tactical confusion. Her transmission was delivered in the same quiet, professional tone that had characterized all her radio communications throughout 18 months of training exercises, though the content represented a level of combat effectiveness that would have been remarkable for an entire squadron, much less a single pilot operating alone against coordinated opposition. Rodriguez acknowledged Maya's transmission with something approaching awe, his voice carrying the tone of a pilot who had just witnessed capabilities that challenged his understanding of what was possible in aerial combat. His follow-up transmission requested clarification about her weapons employment sequence, apparently unable to comprehend how 12 enemy contacts had been eliminated in the time it would normally take to engage a single target. The mathematical precision of the engagement exceeded what conventional training had prepared him to understand. The strike packages resumed their attack runs with the focused intensity of pilots who had just been given an unexpected opportunity to complete their primary mission without the overwhelming fighter opposition that had been developing. Morrison's element successfully delivered their ordnance against the main target facility, their precision-guided weapons penetrating deep underground to eliminate the simulated weapons manufacturing complex. Thompson's group neutralized the remaining air defense sites with methodical efficiency, clearing the airspace for follow-on operations that might be required. Maya maintained her combat air patrol orbit while monitoring the tactical situation for additional threats that might emerge from areas not covered by the squadron's initial intelligence assessments. Her aircraft's advanced sensor systems painted a detailed picture of the entire operational area, tracking friendly forces while scanning for enemy contacts that might attempt to interfere with the mission's completion. The gentle precision that had characterized her flying throughout the engagement continued as she managed her aircraft systems with the calm efficiency that had always marked her approach to combat operations. Sterling's voice cut through the post-engagement radio traffic with instructions for the squadron to begin their return to Nellis Air Force Base. The mission objectives had been achieved with remarkable efficiency, though the tactical circumstances that had enabled success were still being processed by pilots who had expected a far more challenging and dangerous engagement. Maya's elimination of the coordinated enemy response had transformed what should have been a complex multi-threat scenario into a relatively straightforward strike mission. The flight back to Nevada provided time for Maya's squadron mates to begin comprehending what they had witnessed during the engagement. Morrison's radio transmissions gradually shifted from professional mission updates to carefully worded questions about engagement, techniques and targeting procedures that seemed to exceed what normal F-35 capabilities should have allowed. Thompson's communications revealed growing curiosity about the sensor fusion methods that had enabled simultaneous tracking of multiple targets across such a wide area of operations. Rodriguez's questions became increasingly direct as the formation approached Nellis airspace, his inquiries focusing on the specific training background that had prepared Maya for the kind of engagement they had just witnessed. His tone carried the respect of a combat pilot who recognized exceptional skill when he saw it, though his confusion about her previous performance during routine training exercises was evident in every transmission. The pilot who had just eliminated 12 enemy fighters in 8 seconds bore little resemblance to the cautious, gentle aviator they had known for 18 months. Maya responded to her colleagues' questions with the same quiet professionalism that had characterized her interaction with the squadron since her arrival at Nellis. Her explanations focused on standard F-35 procedures and capabilities that were available to any pilot who took the time to understand their aircraft's full potential. She made no mention of the specialized training background that had actually prepared her for the engagement, nor did she elaborate on the specific techniques that had enabled such rapid target prosecution across multiple threat vectors. The landing pattern at Nellis brought the squadron back to the familiar routine of peacetime flying operations, though the atmosphere within the formation carried an undercurrent of tension that hadn't existed during their morning departure. Maya's gentle control inputs guided her F-35 through the traffic pattern with the same precise technique that had always characterized her flying, though her squadron mates were now viewing those same control movements through an entirely different lens of understanding. Master Sergeant Vasquez was waiting on the flight line as the aircraft taxied back to their parking positions, his experienced eye immediately noting the subtle differences in how the other pilots were looking at Maya as she shut down her F-35's systems. The maintenance chief had seen similar scenes before, when quiet professionals demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything their colleagues thought they knew about aerial combat. The dynamics within elite squadrons could shift dramatically when someone revealed skills that exceeded every previous assumption about their abilities. The post-flight debriefing took place in the same conference room where Maya had been assigned her support role just hours earlier, though the atmosphere was markedly different from the casual confidence that had characterized the morning session. Sterling entered the room with the measured pace of a commander who was processing tactical results that exceeded his expectations, while the squadron pilots arranged themselves around the conference table with uncharacteristic quiet. The usual post-mission banter was notably absent. Sterling began the debriefing with standard mission assessment procedures, reviewing each element's performance against assigned objectives and analyzing the tactical decisions that had influenced the engagement's outcome. Morrison reported successful completion of his strike package's primary mission, though his assessment included frequent references to the unexpected elimination of enemy fighter opposition that had enabled his elements' success. Thompson acknowledged that air defense suppression had been achieved more easily than anticipated, primarily because enemy coordination had been disrupted early in the engagement. Rodriguez provided his assessment of the air-to-air engagement phase with the careful attention to detail that characterized professional military analysis. His report focused on the rapid elimination of enemy fighter opposition, though his description of the engagement sequence revealed his ongoing difficulty in comprehending how 12 targets had been prosecuted so quickly by a single pilot. His cold recommendation for detailed tactical analysis of the engagement reflected recognition that conventional training hadn't prepared him to understand what he had witnessed. Maya's turn to provide her assessment came with the kind of professional courtesy that had always marked Sterling's interaction with his pilots, though the attention focused on her was notably more intense than what she typically received during routine debriefings. Her report covered the tactical situation from her perspective, describing the enemy's coordinated approach and the engagement sequence that had disrupted their attack formation. Her analysis was delivered in the same quiet, methodical tone that had characterized all her previous briefing contributions. Sterling's questions became increasingly detailed as Maya's debriefing continued, his inquiries revealing both tactical curiosity and growing recognition that his assessment of her capabilities had been fundamentally incorrect. His questions focused on the specific procedures that had enabled simultaneous target tracking and weapons employment against multiple contacts, though Maya's responses consistently referenced standard F-35 capabilities rather than specialized techniques that might have suggested unusual training background. Morrison interrupted the formal debriefing process with direct questions that reflected his growing confusion about Maya's demonstrated capabilities versus her previous performance. During routine training exercises, his inquiries were carefully worded to avoid direct challenge to her competence, But the underlying message was clear: he couldn't reconcile the pilot, who had just eliminated 12 enemy fighters, with the cautious aviator who had spent 18 months flying conservative training profiles and avoiding aggressive engagement scenarios. Thompson's contribution to the discussion focused on the tactical implications of the engagement results, particularly the speed with which enemy coordination had been disrupted by eliminating formation leaders across multiple approach vectors. His analysis revealed professional appreciation for the tactical sophistication that had guided Maya's target selection, though his comments also reflected confusion about how such advanced tactical thinking had remained hidden during months of routine squadron operations. Maya's responses to her colleagues' questions maintained the same professional demeanor that had characterized her interaction with the squadron throughout her assignment at Nellis. She acknowledged their tactical assessments while redirecting attention to standard procedures and capabilities that were available to any pilot who invested the time to understand their aircraft's full potential. Her explanations consistently avoided any suggestion that her performance had been exceptional, instead presenting the engagement as a routine application of F-35 systems that any competent pilot should have been able to execute. Sterling concluded the formal debriefing with tactical lessons learned and recommendations for future training that would incorporate the engagement techniques that had proven so effective during the mission. His analysis focused on the importance of understanding advanced F-35 capabilities and the tactical applications that could be achieved through proper systems integration. The debriefing summary made no specific mention of Maya's individual performance, though the implications were clear to everyone present in the conference room. The squadron dispersed from the debriefing with the subdued atmosphere of pilots who were processing information that challenged their understanding of aerial combat capabilities. Maya gathered her materials with the same methodical precision that had always characterized her preparation for military activities, though her colleagues' attention remained focused on her with an intensity that hadn't existed before the morning's mission. The dynamics within the squadron had shifted fundamentally, though the full implications of that change were still being understood. Maya walked across the flight line toward the squadron operations building with the measured pace that had always marked her movement around Nellis Air Force Base. Her flight suit was still impeccably pressed despite the morning's activities, her equipment arranged with mathematical precision, and her overall appearance unchanged from the countless other times she had completed similar walks after routine training missions. The external evidence of her morning's activities was minimal, though the impact on her squadron's perception of her capabilities was profound. Lieutenant Sarah Phoenix Martinez approached Maya near the operations building entrance with the careful respect of a newer squadron member seeking guidance from someone whose capabilities had just been dramatically revealed. Martinez had joined the squadron 3 months after Maya's arrival, and her interaction with the older pilot had been limited to professional courtesies and routine administrative matters. Her current approach reflected recognition that her assessment of Maya's position within the squadron hierarchy required fundamental revision. Martinez's questions focused on training opportunities and professional development resources that might help her develop the kind of advanced capabilities that Maya had demonstrated during the morning's engagement. Her inquiries were carefully worded to show respect while seeking specific guidance about techniques that could improve her own performance during complex tactical scenarios. The conversation reflected the kind of professional consultation that typically flowed from senior to junior pilots, though the seniority relationship had been established through demonstrated competence rather than rank or experience. Maya's response to Martinez's questions reflected the same patient teaching approach that had characterized her interaction with junior personnel throughout her military career, though this was the first time anyone in the squadron had specifically sought her tactical guidance. Her explanations focused on fundamental flying skills and systems knowledge that formed the foundation for advanced tactical applications. She emphasized the importance of understanding aircraft capabilities thoroughly before attempting to employ those capabilities under stress. Captain Lisa Venom Park joined the conversation with professional curiosity about the specific training background that had prepared Maya for the kind of engagement they had witnessed. Park had been assigned to the squadron for 2 years and had established herself as one of its most technically competent pilots, though her performance during conventional training exercises had never approached what Maya had demonstrated during the morning's mission. Her questions reflected both professional respect and growing awareness that her understanding of aerial combat had significant gaps. Maya's discussion with Park covered the theoretical foundations of multi-target engagement techniques and the systems integration requirements that enabled effective prosecution of complex tactical scenarios. Her explanations avoided specific references to specialized training programs while providing detailed analysis of the technical procedures that any pilot could develop through dedicated study and practice. The conversation had the character of advanced tactical instruction delivered by someone whose understanding of aerial combat exceeded what normal squadron training typically provided. Rodriguez approached the group with the direct manner of someone who had decided to address his confusion about Maya's capabilities in straightforward terms. His questions focused on her previous assignment history and the specific training experiences that had prepared her for the level of performance they had witnessed. His inquiries were delivered with the professional courtesy appropriate between squadron mates, though his tone reflected determination to understand how he had misjudged her ability so completely for 18 months. Maya's response to Rodriguez's direct questions maintained the same professional boundaries that had characterized all her previous discussions about her background. She acknowledged her previous assignments in general terms while avoiding specific details that might have revealed the specialized nature of her training or the classified programs that had actually prepared her for advanced tactical operations. Her explanations focused on the importance of continuous professional development and the value of studying aircraft capabilities that most pilots never fully explored. Thompson joined the growing discussion with tactical questions that reflected his role as one of the squadron's senior pilots and his responsibility for training newer aviators in advanced combat techniques. His inquiries focused on the specific procedures that could be incorporated into squadron training programs to develop the kind of capabilities that Maya had demonstrated. The conversation had evolved into an informal tactical symposium with Maya providing instruction to pilots who had previously viewed her as junior in capability, if not in experience. The discussion continued for nearly an hour as more squadron members joined the group, seeking guidance about advanced tactical techniques and professional development opportunities. Maya found herself in the unfamiliar position of being the center of attention for her expertise, rather than being politely ignored, as had been the case throughout her previous assignment at Nellis. The change in her colleagues' perception of her capabilities was creating opportunities for professional interaction that hadn't existed before the morning's demonstration. Sterling observed the growing discussion from his office window with the analytical attention of a commander who was recognizing that his squadron's capabilities might be significantly greater than he had previously understood. His assessment of individual pilot abilities had been based on performance during routine training exercises, but Maya's demonstration suggested that conventional evaluation methods might not reveal the full range of skills available within his unit. The implications for mission planning and tactical employment were substantial. The informal tactical discussion gradually dispersed as squadron members returned to their normal afternoon duties, though the atmosphere around Maya had changed fundamentally from what had existed before the morning's mission. Her colleagues' interaction with her now carried the professional respect accorded to someone whose expertise was recognized and valued. The transformation from ignored support pilot to respected tactical advisor had occurred within the span of a single engagement, though the full implications of that change were still being processed. Maya returned to her normal afternoon routine of equipment, maintenance and flight planning with the same methodical precision that had always characterized her approach to military duties. Her workspace remained organized with mathematical efficiency, her equipment arranged according to patterns that reflected both practical utility and personal preference. The external evidence of her changed status within the squadron was minimal, though the quality of attention she received from colleagues had been transformed completely. The squadron's maintenance personnel had begun paying closer attention to Maya's aircraft preparation procedures, recognizing that her methodical approach to systems management might contain techniques that could improve overall squadron readiness. Master Sergeant Vasquez assigned additional resources to ensure that Maya's F-35 received priority attention during post-flight inspections, acknowledging that pilot capability and aircraft condition were intimately related in ways that affected overall mission success. Evening approached with the gradual cooling that marked desert sunsets, bringing relief from the intense heat that had characterized the Nevada afternoon. The squadron operations building remained active with pilots completing administrative requirements and planning for the next day's training activities. Maya worked through her routine paperwork with the same careful attention to detail that had always marked her approach to military bureaucracy, though her colleagues' perception of even these mundane activities had been colored by their new understanding of her capabilities. Rodriguez approached Maya's desk with the respectful manner of someone seeking guidance from a recognized expert, his questions focusing on tactical planning procedures and threat assessment techniques that could improve his own performance during complex missions. His inquiry reflected both professional humility and recognition that his previous dismissal of Maya's capabilities had been based on inadequate information. The conversation marked a fundamental shift in their professional relationship. Thompson joined the discussion with questions about advanced systems integration and the technical procedures that enabled effective employment of F-35 capabilities under challenging tactical conditions. His inquiries reflected genuine curiosity about techniques that could be incorporated into squadron training programs, though his approach also acknowledged that Maya's expertise exceeded what normal instructor-pilot qualifications typically provided. The conversation had the character of advanced professional development delivered by someone whose understanding of aerial combat was exceptional. Morrison's participation in the evening discussion reflected his recognition that his previous assessment of Maya's capabilities had been fundamentally flawed, though his questions maintained the careful professionalism appropriate between squadron mates of equal rank. His inquiries focused on tactical decision-making processes and the analytical techniques that enabled rapid assessment of complex threat scenarios. The conversation marked his acceptance of Maya as a peer whose expertise was worthy of serious attention. Maya's responses to her colleagues' questions reflected both technical competence and teaching ability that suggested extensive experience in advanced tactical instruction, though she continued to avoid specific references to her background that might have revealed the classified nature of her previous assignments. Her explanations focused on fundamental principles and systematic approaches that any pilot could develop through dedicated study and practice. The discussions had the character of graduate-level tactical education delivered in informal settings. The evening's conversations concluded with expressions of professional appreciation and requests for future tactical discussions that would help squadron members develop more advanced capabilities. Maya's colleagues had begun to recognize that her expertise represented a significant resource that could improve overall squadron performance, though the full extent of her knowledge remained largely unexplored. The transformation from overlooked support pilot to valued tactical advisor was now complete, though the implications for future operations were still being understood. Maya completed her evening administrative duties with the same methodical precision that had always characterized her approach to military requirements, though the context of those activities had been transformed by her demonstrated capabilities. Her colleagues' interaction with her now carried the professional respect accorded to recognized expertise, creating opportunities for influence and leadership that hadn't existed before the morning's engagement. The quiet pilot who had been ignored for 18 months had finally found her voice, though she had spoken it in a language that enemy fighters understood perfectly. 3 weeks after the engagement that had redefined her position within the squadron, Maya found herself facing the most challenging mission of her career. Intelligence reports from the Pacific Theater indicated that a hostile nation had deployed advanced stealth fighters to a forward base, threatening American naval operations throughout the region. The enemy aircraft represented the latest generation of foreign military technology, equipped with radar systems and weapons that challenged every assumption about American air superiority that had dominated military planning for decades. Colonel Sterling stood before a room filled with pilots whose attention was now focused completely on tactical analysis rather than the casual bravado that had characterized previous briefings. The mission parameters were unlike anything the squadron had encountered during training exercises. 6 enemy stealth fighters were operating from a heavily defended island base, conducting reconnaissance flights that probed American defensive capabilities while gathering intelligence about fleet movements and operational patterns. Their activities threatened to compromise ongoing operations throughout the theater. The tactical challenges were unprecedented in the squadron's experience. The enemy aircraft possessed stealth characteristics that made detection extremely difficult using conventional radar systems. Their weapons included long-range missiles that could engage American fighters from distances that exceeded traditional defensive responses. Most significantly, their pilots appeared to have extensive training in advanced air-to-air combat techniques that suggested professional military instruction rather than the ad hoc training that characterized most potential adversaries. Maya listened to the intelligence briefing with the focused attention that had always marked her approach to tactical planning. Though her colleagues now recognized that her analytical process extended far beyond what conventional pilot training typically provided. Her notebook filled with detailed diagrams and calculations that reflected understanding of complex tactical relationships between aircraft performance, weapons capabilities, and environmental factors that would influence the mission's outcome. The mission assignment process reflected the fundamental change in how Sterling viewed his squadron's capabilities. Maya was designated as the primary air-to-air asset, responsible for eliminating enemy fighters that might threaten the strike. Packages assigned to destroy the forward base's supporting infrastructure. Her role placed her at the center of the most dangerous phase of the operation, though her colleagues now understood that her capabilities were uniquely suited for exactly this type of complex engagement. Morrison would lead the strike element, responsible for neutralizing the base's air defense systems. His aggressive flying style adapted to the precision requirements of attacking heavily defended targets. Thompson's element would destroy the runways and support facilities that enabled enemy operations from the island base. Rodriguez would provide close air support for any ground operations that might develop during the mission. The assignments reflected careful matching of pilot capabilities with tactical requirements, rather than the routine distribution of roles that had characterized previous operations. The intelligence assessment painted a picture of professional military opposition that exceeded anything the squadron had previously encountered. The enemy pilots had demonstrated tactical sophistication during their reconnaissance flights, using advanced electronic warfare techniques and coordinated flight patterns that suggested extensive training in modern air combat doctrine. Their aircraft were maintained to standards that indicated substantial logistical support and technical expertise. This would not be the kind of straightforward engagement that training exercises had prepared them for. Maya's mission planning extended far beyond the standard procedures that characterized normal pre-flight preparation. Her analysis incorporated weather patterns, electromagnetic interference factors, and enemy response timelines that would influence every aspect of the engagement. Her approach to tactical planning reflected understanding of aerial combat that had been developed through experiences that her colleagues were only beginning to appreciate. The gentle precision that had characterized her flying was now recognized as evidence of expertise rather than timidity. The pre-flight briefing covered contingency procedures and emergency protocols with the detailed attention that characterized operations where American lives would depend on split-second decisions made under maximum stress. Maya's contributions to the tactical discussion reflected analytical capabilities that impressed officers whose own experience included actual combat operations. Her assessment of enemy capabilities and probable response patterns demonstrated understanding of aerial warfare that exceeded what conventional training programs typically provided. Equipment preparation for the mission required capabilities that pushed F-35 systems to their maximum performance limits. Maya's aircraft was configured with the most advanced missiles available, along with electronic warfare systems that would enable operation in the sophisticated threat environment surrounding the enemy base. Her personal equipment included specialized survival gear optimized for potential operations over water, acknowledging that the mission's location created unique challenges for pilot recovery if aircraft systems failed. The flight toward the Pacific target area took place during pre-dawn, hours that provided maximum concealment for the approaching American formation. Maya's F-35 moved through the darkness with the ghost-like characteristics that made stealth aircraft nearly invisible to enemy detection systems, though her sensors painted a detailed picture of the tactical environment that surrounded the target area. Enemy radar systems swept the airspace continuously, searching for American aircraft that their operators knew were approaching but couldn't quite locate. Maya established her combat air patrol position 50 miles from the enemy base, where her aircraft's advanced sensors could monitor the entire tactical area while remaining outside the effective range of most enemy weapon systems. Her position provided early warning capabilities for the strike packages, while maintaining the flexibility to respond rapidly to threats that might emerge from unexpected directions. The tactical geometry placed her at the intersection of multiple threat vectors where enemy aircraft would have to pass to intercept American strike forces. The first indication of enemy response came through electronic intercepts that revealed increased communication activity at the island base. Maya's linguistic training, another capability that her squadron had never suspected, enabled her to understand fragments of enemy transmissions that indicated preparation for defensive operations. The hostile pilots were professional military aviators who understood that American strike aircraft were approaching, though their specific location and attack timing remained unknown to enemy commanders. Enemy fighters began launching from the island base in coordinated pairs, their departure patterns suggesting tactical doctrine that emphasized mutual support and coordinated engagement techniques. Maya tracked their movements through her F-35 sensor systems, analyzing flight patterns that revealed both professional competence and specific training in air-to-air combat against American aircraft. These were not the poorly trained pilots that most training scenarios assumed, but rather professional military aviators whose capabilities would challenge American technological advantages. The enemy's initial response demonstrated tactical sophistication that exceeded intelligence estimates. Instead of the predictable defensive patterns that most adversaries employed, the hostile aircraft established patrol orbits that created overlapping coverage zones, while maintaining the flexibility to respond rapidly to threats from multiple directions. Their coordination suggested extensive training in advanced air combat doctrine and communication procedures that enabled effective teamwork under stress. Maya's tactical analysis identified the enemy formation leaders through subtle differences in flight patterns and communication procedures that indicated command authority. Her targeting priority focused on eliminating command aircraft first. disrupting enemy coordination before engaging the remaining fighters. The approach reflected understanding of aerial combat psychology that recognized the importance of leadership in maintaining effective tactical performance under the stress of actual combat operations. The engagement began when enemy fighters detected Morrison's strike package approaching from the southeast. Their response was immediate and professional, with coordinated intercept vectors that demonstrated tactical competence far exceeding what most potential adversaries typically displayed. Maya watched the developing situation through her sensor systems, while calculating optimal intervention points that would disrupt enemy operations without exposing American strike aircraft to unnecessary risk. Maya's first missiles eliminated 2 enemy formation leaders before the hostile pilots realized they were under attack from an unexpected direction. Her F-35 stealth characteristics had enabled her to close within effective engagement range without being detected by enemy radar systems, providing the element of surprise that was essential for success against professional opposition. The sudden elimination of command aircraft created immediate confusion in enemy formations that had been preparing coordinated attacks against American strike forces. The remaining enemy fighters scattered in response to the unexpected threat, their tactical coordination collapsing as individual pilots attempted to locate and engage an adversary they couldn't detect with their own sensors. Maya's advantage in sensor technology and stealth characteristics enabled her to track all enemy aircraft while remaining effectively invisible to their targeting systems. The technological superiority that American forces had developed provided decisive advantages when employed by pilots who understood how to exploit those capabilities. Maya's third and fourth missiles found their targets as enemy pilots attempted desperate, evasive maneuvers that revealed their positions while providing no effective defense against weapons that had been launched from beyond their detection range. The mathematical precision of her engagement sequence reflected tactical training that had been developed through actual combat experience rather than theoretical instruction. Her gentle touch on the controls enabled weapon employment accuracy that maximized effectiveness while minimizing ammunition expenditure. The final 2 enemy fighters attempted to coordinate their defensive response, but their tactical options were limited by Maya's superior sensor capabilities and stealth characteristics. Her last 2 missiles eliminated both aircraft within seconds of each other, completing the engagement before enemy pilots had time to transmit tactical intelligence about American capabilities to their ground controllers. The entire air phase of the mission had been completed with surgical precision that left no enemy aircraft available to threaten American strike operations. Morrison's elements successfully destroyed the island base's air defense systems without encountering the fighter opposition that would have made their mission exponentially more dangerous. Thompson's strikes against runway and support facilities proceeded according to plan, eliminating the base's ability to conduct future operations against American forces. Rodriguez provided overwatch for the strike packages during their withdrawal, though no additional enemy threats materialized from the tactical confusion that Maya's engagement had created. The return flight to their forward base took place in complete radio silence, with Maya maintaining overwatch for the formation while monitoring for any additional enemy response that might threaten the mission's success. Her aircraft sensor systems painted a picture of empty airspace where 6 enemy fighters had been operating just minutes before, confirming the complete success of her engagement against professional opposition that had been equipped with advanced technology and sophisticated training. The post-mission debriefing took place in a secure facility with intelligence officers whose questions revealed both professional admiration and strategic concern about the implications of Maya's demonstrated capabilities. Her elimination of 6 enemy stealth fighters in a single engagement represented a level of tactical effectiveness that challenged fundamental assumptions about aerial combat between advanced military forces. The strategic implications extended far beyond the immediate mission success. Maya's tactical report focused on enemy capabilities and training standards that exceeded intelligence estimates, providing crucial information about hostile military development that would influence American planning for future operations. Her analysis of enemy aircraft performance, pilot training, and tactical doctrine reflected understanding of aerial warfare that impressed officers whose own experience included the highest levels of military aviation. The quiet pilot who had been ignored for months was now providing strategic intelligence that would shape American military policy. Sterling's assessment of the mission results acknowledged that Maya's performance had fundamentally altered his understanding of what individual pilot capability could achieve under optimal conditions. Her elimination of professional opposition, equipped with advanced technology, demonstrated tactical effectiveness that exceeded what normal squadron capabilities could provide. The implications for future mission planning required complete revision of assumptions about pilot employment and tactical resource allocation. The squadron's reaction to Maya's Pacific engagement reflected recognition that they had been assigned the pilot whose capabilities exceeded anything they had previously encountered. Her colleagues' questions focused on tactical techniques and training background that could explain performance that challenged their understanding of what was possible in aerial combat. The transformation from overlooked support pilot to strategic asset was now complete, though the full implications of her capabilities were still being explored. Maya's response to the attention focused on her performance maintained the same professional demeanor that had characterized her interaction with colleagues throughout her assignment. She deflected personal recognition while emphasizing the technological capabilities of American aircraft and the importance of thorough preparation for complex tactical scenarios. Her explanations avoided specific references to her background while providing valuable instruction about advanced combat techniques that could improve overall squadron performance. The strategic implications of Maya's capabilities attracted attention from higher headquarters that had monitored the Pacific mission results with considerable interest. Her tactical effectiveness against advanced enemy aircraft suggested possibilities for individual pilot employment that could revolutionize American approaches to air superiority operations. The quiet aviator who had been relegated to support roles was now being considered for assignments that would place her at the center of the most critical air combat operations. Maya's final conversation with Sterling before her reassignment to a classified program reflected mutual professional respect that had developed through recognition of exceptional capability and effective leadership. Her impact on squadron performance had extended far beyond her individual achievements, inspiring improvements in training standards and tactical preparation that would benefit American military aviation for years to come. The gentle precision that had once been dismissed as weakness was now recognized as evidence of expertise that exceeded conventional understanding. As Maya prepared for departure from Nellis Air Force Base, her squadron mates gathered to express appreciation for instruction and inspiration that had transformed their own approach to aerial combat. Rodriguez acknowledged that her patient teaching had improved his tactical awareness in ways that would enhance his effectiveness throughout his remaining military career. Thompson credited her analytical approach with providing insights that would influence his own development as a tactical instructor and leader. Morrison's farewell reflected recognition that his initial dismissal of Maya's capabilities had been based on superficial assessment rather than genuine understanding of what constituted professional excellence in military aviation. His admission that her gentle approach to flying represented superior technique rather than weakness marked a fundamental change in his understanding of what separated exceptional pilots from merely adequate ones. The transformation in his attitude reflected broader changes throughout the squadron. Maya's departure from the squadron left behind pilots who had been fundamentally changed by exposure to capabilities that exceeded their previous understanding of aerial combat. Her influence on training standards, tactical procedures, and professional development would continue long after her reassignment to more challenging duties. The quiet pilot who had been ignored for 18 months had proven that true expertise often remained hidden until circumstances demanded its revelation. The final lesson that Maya's experience provided extended beyond tactical instruction to fundamental questions about leadership, recognition, and the proper evaluation of professional capability. Her colleagues had learned that assumptions based on superficial observation could blind them to exceptional talent that existed within their own organizations. The gentle touch that they had mocked as weakness had proven to be the foundation of tactical effectiveness that exceeded anything they had previously encountered. Maya Chen's legacy within the 34th Fighter Squadron would endure as a reminder that true professional excellence often remained hidden beneath quiet competence and patient preparation. Her demonstration that individual capability could decisively influence tactical outcomes inspired a generation of pilots to pursue higher standards of training and preparation. The woman who had been dismissed as too gentle for combat operations had proven that precision and patience were the ultimate expressions of professional military competence. As Maya's F-35 disappeared into the Nevada sky for the last time, heading toward assignments that would remain classified for decades, her former squadron mates understood that they had witnessed something exceptional. The pilot who had locked 12 targets in 8 seconds had shown them that capability and character were often revealed not through boastful demonstration, but through quiet excellence that spoke only when circumstances demanded absolute precision. Her gentle touch had proven to be exactly what American military aviation needed most. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.